Good evening, Facebook family and YouTube family. Brian and I are coming to you tonight, impromptu. We have gotten several calls. People have asked for Brian to give a more rundown explanation of actually what does FEMA provide and what will they pay for and what will they provide those residents that have suffered catastrophic events, such as home destructions that were done by the tornado, vehicle destructions, property, commercial, residential, it doesn't matter. What actually does FEMA come in to do? Once the President of the United States have deemed it a disaster zone. So that is where we are today. So if you know of anyone, or if you want to share this video with as many people as you can that have been affected by these last storms, please have them to log on immediately or share this video with them, because Brian will be doing this segment strictly for those people that desire, even if you didn't have any effect from the storm, just for future reference or just for your knowledge. You need to know exactly what FEMA does and what they provide. So without further ado, I'm going to let Brian begin to break that down to you. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday night and take this opportunity to learn, to educate others, because there will be a lot of questions asked in the next few days or few months. So people will be expecting certain things, and with Brian being an expert in this field, we are going to let him have the show.
Okay, everybody. Like Janet said, we had a couple of people to call and just wanted some details on basically how their insurance works, as well as what FEMA will cover, will not cover. Briefly, we discussed that this past Sunday on the Sunday show, but I wanted to come and do an impromptu show for those individuals and for those that were affected by the storm, so that you'll have a understanding of just how insurance works, what your insurance is going to be doing if you did have homeowners insurance, and then what in conjunction will FEMA do and what they will not do. I said in just a very brief segment that FEMA was not responsible for replacing your home. If you did not have insurance, FEMA does not come in and automatically say, okay, we're going to rebuild your home because you were a disaster victim and your home was destroyed by the tornado. That is not how FEMA actually works. So we want to just give you a more detailed analysis, detailed summary on how FEMA works and how your insurance works as it relates to this particular storm. So let me jump right in. This is only going to be probably a 30-minute segment. If you have any questions after the show, please get in touch with Janice. You can actually inbox her with any questions. If you need more information, we're here for you all at this time. We want to be of best service as possible. So again, share that with your friends. Share this video with your family. I will post it on YouTube as well, so it will be on our YouTube site as well. So let's get started real quick. If you have homeowners insurance basically covers four main parts of your particular home. Okay, so there are four main coverages to homeowners insurance that will actually be written into most insurance policies. So I want to stipulate most insurance policies. As far as homeowners, the basics four main coverages you're going to see pretty much in every policy, but every policy could be different depending on different endorsements as well as different addendums, okay? But the four basic coverages that are in every homeowner's policy pretty much is going to be dwelling, personal property, personal liability, and loss of use. Also, loss of use, oftentimes we use the acronym as for loss of use being A as in alpha, L as in Lima, E as in echo, ALE, means additional living expenses. Okay, so ALE, if your insurance adjuster refers to loss of use as ALE, it means additional living expenses that are covered in your policy up under loss of use. Okay, that's just simplifying it. So what does dwelling, the dwelling portion of your policy in a homeowner's insurance covers? So I'm just going to give you the basic. Dwelling coverage is probably the largest part of the actual homeowner's insurance policy. It provides coverages for the house itself, and the coverage is based on replacement cost insurance, what we call replacement cost insurance. Okay, that's the replacement cost of your home. So in other words, it is the actual amount that's required to rebuild your home from the ground up. Okay, that could entail different calculations based on what your policy read as and based on the insurance provider. So let me give you an example. That dwelling coverage could cover 80% of the home and 20% be left to you, just depending on how the policy is written. The replacement cost could cover 100% of the home. There again, depending on how the policy is written and your provider. So just keep in mind that dwelling coverage, replacement cost insurance, even though it's the actual amount, we say that it's the actual amount of the cost of the home being built from the ground up, it could vary based on the way that the policy reads. Okay? The dwelling coverage amount is calculated based on the cost of materials that's needed to rebuild your house, including everything from the lumber to the carpet. Okay? So it's pretty much everything. All right? Most insurance companies offers what they call extended or guaranteed replacement cost coverage. What does that mean to you? It is an option or a clause that's actually written into the policy that covers for inflation if necessary.
Okay. We're running into that now.
Well, we're in that.
Yes.
Okay, so that when inflation goes up, even though a home depreciates, it doesn't keep up with the market because inflation normally will transcend the market value price. Okay, so insurance is not, your home is not keeping up with the market. Therefore, even though the home is appreciating, it's not appreciating as fast as inflation is rising.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're still going to have a variance there based on the market cost. Okay, so if you have extended replacement cost or guaranteed replacement cost insurance, which is an endorsement to the replacement cost value insurance, then that will actually cover the cost of inflation based on the market not moving as fast as inflation is rising. Okay? All right, so the next part of that dwelling coverage that you'll have that I said is one of the four is personal property. Okay, personal property coverage. What does that cover? Personal property coverage pays to replace all contents of your home. This coverage is usually 50 to 70% of your dwelling coverage. Okay, so give you an example. If you have $100,000 worth of dwelling coverage, then it's 50 to 70% of that. So as far as covering the content, so that would be $50,000 to $70,000 worth of coverage for the contents that's inside.
That's like your furnishing, stove, refrigerator, things of that nature.
That is correct. Okay. So personal property may be covered for actual cash value, which includes a depreciated amount. Okay. So let me give you an example on how the depreciation works. If you have in your home contents and say a $5,000 diamond ring that was lost in the storm, you could very well claim that as part of the contents of the home that was lost. It was in a dresser that was worth, let's say, $500. But the $5,000 that you paid for the ring is the actual cash value of the ring. The depreciated amount of the ring is not dollar per dollar what you paid for the ring. There will be a depreciation, meaning a certain percentage of that ring, okay, will be depreciated. So it could be 5%, it could be 10%, just depending on what your policy state as far as jewelry being replaced. Okay, so if it's 10% depreciation, then you can look at that ring probably, instead of you getting $5,000, if it's 10% depreciation, you may get $3,500. Okay, all right. So that's how depreciation value works. It doesn't pay dollar for dollar. Okay, so also there's replacement cost insurance built into personal property insurance if the item is new. Okay? All right, so if you just purchased that item one day before the storm hit, you've got receipts to validate that, or you could go to Best Buy, or you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and they can print you out a receipt. Then replacement costs would cover the full value of that item. Okay? All right, so the next part of the four main parts to a dwelling policy, to a homeowner's insurance, is personal liability. What is personal liability coverage? Okay, your homeowner's liability coverage pays the damage if someone is injured on your property or who suffers property damage as a result of yourself, maybe of your family members or your pets. So good illustration if a dog bites you on the property. Okay, your homeowner's insurance will cover for the damage that's done to the person that happened to. Okay, it also pays court costs if you are sued by that person. Okay, so many homeowners policies, liability, personal liability coverage starts at $100,000. Okay, that is pretty much the minimum you're going to see on personal liability on a homeowner's policy. Okay, all right. So I don't think we have to worry about that here in particular, but it's just, like I said, it's one of the four main coverages built into that policy, so you do need to know about that. Okay, and then the last is the loss of use, or what we call ALE, which is additional living expenses portion of the policy. What does that cover? This is very important for my storm victims. Okay, that covers any payment expenses as it relates to you being displaced. Okay, so if your home is deemed unlivable, this additional living expenses will pay for your hotel cost, will pay for restaurant expenses. Now, keep in mind, you need to keep your receipt. You need to validate if you are staying at a hotel, if you have to pay someone and you're staying at someone's house, if you are having to eat out because you do not have a means of preparing meals. Please keep all of your receipts. Your loss of use or ALE portion of the homeowner's policy will actually pay for those particular areas that you may have need in, okay, that most people do not even think about,
Right.
but you do have coverages for that, okay? So hotel costs, restaurant expenses, any other needs, say for instance, washing clothes. If you have to go and wash at a laundromat and you have to pay, of course, at the laundromat, keep your receipts. That is reimbursable back to you.
What if you're living with a friend, Brian, and you're washing and you're eating and you're cooking and you're using additional power and water and gas? I mean, how do you do that?
All of that is actually covered. So if you are actually staying with a relative or a friend, advise that relative as it relates to per day that you are staying there. If you had to pay that relative, if that relative is charging you, let's use for an example, if it costs to stay at a hotel $129, your insurance will pay a portion of that. Let's say 75% of that. So let's say they'll cover $75 of that. So $75 a day with you staying to your relative is pretty much what you can figure that you can be reimbursed to. Now, here is the dues of keeping up with that. Every day, the relative will need to keep track, get a memo pad, or either go out to Office Depot and buy yourself a receipt book and write a receipt with a carbon copy. Keep the carbon copy. Give that receipt to the relative that is actually paying you $75 a day. At the end of the week, you tally up your receipt. If it's $525, then for that week, that's what the insurance company owes you as loss of use. The key here is making sure that you document everything. So you want to put it in writing. If you don't have it in writing, it cannot be validated. Therefore, the insurance company do not have to reimburse you if you do not validate it. So one way of validation is by writing out a receipt and the signature of the person that's paying and the signature of the resident owner, whether it be family member or friend that person is staying with, signs that receipt as well. That is a valid document that will hold up in the court of law if you have to go to court. So you want to validate, document, keep your receipts. If your grocery bill goes up while they're there from $100 a week to $200 a week, you want to keep those receipts of the groceries that you buy, and you can present those receipts as well. So if it goes up from $100 to $200 a month, then you got a $100 difference that you can actually show that is owed because your grocery bill increased.
Right.
Same way with your utilities. If your utility bill go up because more water is being used, more electricity is being used, all you have to do is have a previous receipt from the prior month as opposed to the months that they were staying with you. You can show that difference. You can be reimbursed for that difference. Okay?
Wow.
So everybody pretty much got that? Okay. So what does homeowners insurance basically covers? Homeowner insurance covers certain perils. Okay? In the insurance industry, the word peril is defined as risk that can result from damage or loss. Okay, let me say that again. Risk that can result from damage or loss. So in the insurance industry, peril is considered anything that is risk. Okay, so risk that results from damage or loss. Okay, so what are some of those perils that insurances cover? They will cover fire or lightning. Okay, homeowners insurance covers damages to your home in the case of fire or lightning, and it covers your possessions as a result of a fire. And fire coverage also includes most fires that start within the home, whether it's a grease fire, whether it's an electrical fire. Also included in that is lightning. So if lightning strikes your home and it starts a fire, that is included. The only thing that is excluded, or that is an exception to that, is a fire being purposely started. Okay? So if it is an intentional fire that is set in the home, that is not covered. Okay? All right, what else does your homeowner's policy cover that is a peril? It also covers wind or hail. Wind or hail is described as basically just what it says. So if the wind or hail damage your windows, damage your roof, damage your siding, that is covered by your homeowner's insurance. Covers theft of personal property out of the home. So if something is stolen out of the home, okay, there are certain limitations to that. Most theft of property portions of the homeowner's policy do have limits to it. So the limited value may be $10,000. Okay, so if you have something stolen out of your home, and as long as it's below the actual property, below the policy limits concerning that theft, then you're okay. Okay, so if you have $10,000 policy limit and you have $5,000 worth of contents stolen out of the home, then it would cover those $5,000. So it also covers water damage. Okay, so what is defined as water damage? Water damage is from a sudden or accidental discharge of water. So let me explain to you. Most insurance, when you're dealing with insurance, insurances that are covered, whether it be comprehensive, whether it be collision, whether it be homeowners, up under the dwelling portion of the policy, whenever we talk about incidental damage, that is damage that is not caused by yourself. It's either a natural occurrence of damage due to nature, or it is caused by a disruption in the home. Say if a pipe burst, then that's considered to be a disruption in the home. That would be covered. So it is from a sudden and accidental discharge of water. Also, it would cover a leaking roof. If a window is damaged, that was caused by the tornado, that window is blown out, water gets into the house, it would cover that, okay? It does not cover poor maintenance, so meaning that you have to maintain the home. That is considered wear and wear and tear is not covered under the policy, okay? So let me kind of move to some other things as it relates to some of the common exclusions in a homeowner policy. So when I talk about exclusions are those things that are not covered by the homeowner's policy. Okay? So some of the exclusions in homeowner policies are flood. Okay? Because each state, and the reason that flood is an exclusion, because after Katrina, guys, everything changed in the insurance industry. You now have to have a separate flood policy. If you are deemed a flood area in a state, and most flood policies are state specific, meaning that the state sets the actual policies, they set the standard for the policies, okay? They actually write the policies and what the policies have to actually entail. That is governed by the state. So a lot of insurances excludes flood damage. Flood policies. Okay. Flood insurance is very costly. Okay, so if you live in a flood state, Florida, for instance, where hurricanes are prevalent, okay, flood insurance is mandatory in certain parts of Florida.
Yes.
It's going to be very expensive. Okay, so a lot of insurance policy, if you're not in a flood state, you're not in a flood zone, they're not going to cover that in the policy. Okay, they're not going to have that. That's going to be excluded from your policy. Earthquakes. That's another thing that is excluded.
Yeah.
If you are in California, the same thing applies. The state will mandate how the policy is written, what the stipulations are. They control as far as the policies and how the policies, like I said, how they're actually worded. That is all controlled by the state. How much can be charged? All of those things are controlled by the DOI, which we call the Department of Insurance. And that's for each state. The Department of Insurance regulates the state, regulates insurance companies, and they are the main authority as it comes to setting guidelines, setting the laws as it relates to insurances. Okay? So, something else that is excluded, mold, water and sewer backup, because those are just normal maintenance things, okay? Nuclear disaster or war, that's an exclusion on any policy. Okay, your policy is not going to cover for war, is not going to cover for nuclear disaster. War and nuclear disaster, war falls up under the governmental purview, so that's a whole different subject, okay? But that's why war is excluded from all insurance policies. Doesn't matter who your provider is, there's going to be an exclusion for that. Intentional damage, meaning that you damaged the home yourself, personally, to defraud the insurance company. That is not covered. Wear and tear, we've already gone through that, okay? All right, so that's what we're looking at there. So there are optional coverages. What we call optional coverages is basically endorsements, okay, on the policy. So what are endorsements? Endorsements are basically, guys, add-ons that increases your coverages. That's all they are. All right, so just give you an example of some coverages. Add-ons could be water and sewer backup. Okay, if you got a septic tank, okay, you can get water and sewer backup added to your policy. Okay, also high value items you can add to the policy, such as wedding rings. So you can add a rider onto that policy. You can also add business property to that policy. Okay? All right, so those are some of the things, like I said, that can actually be added to the policy. So, okay, so does homeowners insurance cover different types of homes? Yes, they do. All right, so homeowners insurance, you can actually get homeowner insurance on modular homes, on trailers, just depending on what type of home you have. Of course, you have brick structures, which they consider to be singular family dwelling places. Okay, some insurance companies word them a little bit differently, but they're pretty much all the same. If you have an older home, say if you have a home that's 40 plus years old, then the insurance company may require you to bring that home up to code before they will actually insure the home and before they will write any endorsement for the home. Okay, so historic homes, you can purchase insurance that are for vintage homes. Okay, it's a little bit more costly. You can get an endorsement put on the policy if you have an older home. Say if you purchased a new home, but you have your family home that is heir property. Okay, you can actually get an endorsement to cover that home add it to your policy. Okay, condo owners, you have what we call condo insurance, that if you actually own a condo, a beach condo that's your vacation home. Okay, but you're only there maybe once a year or twice a year, or you have family, you can buy condo insurance. So those are some of the different properties that you could cover under homeowners insurance. Okay, all right. So I encourage everybody. I'm not going to go into detail on some of the other things, but let me encourage everyone. If you do not have home insurance, I pray that this, as tragic as this situation was, that it has kind of, helped you to understand how important it is to actually have homeowners insurance. And it doesn't matter how old your home is. I encourage you guys, please look into getting homeowners insurance, okay? So I just wanted to go through that with you. Now, I want to share with you also what FEMA will cover as it relates to the losses that have been incurred in the Selma area in West Alabama, and what FEMA will not cover. Okay? So I want you to have a good understanding of how FEMA assistance work. Okay, so when FEMA come in, like I said, they're going to coordinate with your city and state leaders through EMA oftentimes. But FEMA assistance is not insurance. Let me say that again. FEMA assistance is not insurance. Why are you saying that, Brian? Because FEMA will not pay for, nor is FEMA responsible for paying for the full cost of your loss. Okay? That is not what FEMA was intentionally designed for. Now, I'll have to give you the history of FEMA on another show to show you the disparity there when it comes to why the FEMA system, the emergency management system, which is, well, let me not even start with it, but, because I'll be all night, but it was designed as an adverse entity really against African Americans. It was not designed to help African Americans. Okay, so I'll start with that. But it is not insurance. Okay, so what assistance does FEMA provide? The assistance that FEMA provides is only for basic needs, to make a home safe if the home structure is still standing, sanitary and functional. That's it. Say, for instance, if your roof got ripped off, okay, and to make it safe, they need to go in there and reinforce, what's left, the beams, okay, and then tarp it. That is what they will pay for. Okay, they will not pay to replace the whole roof. They will assist. Now, here's the key word. Assist means that you're not going to get full payment. If a contractor comes out and say, okay, Brian, this is what we need just to make the house stable and safe. We need at least $30,000. Then FEMA may assist with that. But they're not guaranteeing you anything. They're not going to guarantee you that they're going to pay 50%, 40%, 30%. There's no guarantee. Okay?
Wow.
All right. So FEMA assistance does not make you whole again. Let me read that again. FEMA assistance does not make you whole again. It's not intended to make you whole again. FEMA is there basically to address the needs of government. It's to make sure, especially in metropolitan cities, guys, if this is a big import-export, major hub as far as waterways, railways, that's what FEMA is there, is to make sure that goods and services and that functions of goods and services continue. That's why FEMA really is there. Okay? In the process, the victims that were affected are indirectly helped by FEMA. Okay, that's, and I hope everybody understands that. Okay, FEMA disaster assistance covers basic needs only and will not normally compensate you for your entire loss. That can be found at www.gov.usa-FEMA, and you can look at the whole, do's and don'ts as far as FEMA. Okay, all right. Home damage must be related to hurricane, i.e. tornadoes. Okay, FEMA inspectors may contact survivors who registered for help to conduct a remote inspection of their property that was damaged, and they will calculate losses, okay? So FEMA inspectors go out. FEMA have their own inspectors that go out to calculate losses, okay? Property. FEMA may assist with the replacement of or repairs to a disaster damaged home, that being heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, as well as refrigerators and stoves. Other repairs may be covered are utilities such as electrical, plumbing, and gas systems. Non-essential items like dishwashers, home theaters, radios,
televisions,
they are not covered. FEMA will not compensate you for those items because they are considered to be non-essential. They do not, they don't affect, even though black people, I know a TV and a radio may be a cramp on your lifestyle. It's not an essential need. So my people, FEMA's not going to pay for the 75-inch television that may have been lost. Okay? All right. So let's move on. Ceiling and roof damage. FEMA may assist to repair disaster-related leaks in a roof that damage ceilings and threaten electrical components like overhead lights, but not simple stains from roofs or leaks. Okay? So there again, here's the key word, they assist. They assist, okay? Floors. FEMA may assist to repair disaster-damaged subfloor in occupied parts of a home, but not floor covering like tile or carpet, okay? There again, the word is assist. Windows. FEMA may assist with disaster-related broken windows, but not blinds or drapes. Okay? All right, so those are the things that FEMA actually will go in as far as a dwelling place that they'll assist with, as far as is helping out, but there's no guarantees when it comes to FEMA, guys. Okay? Other FEMA help may include temporary expenses to pay for lodging if a survivor's home is uninhabitable. There again, so FEMA will assist with your insurance additional living expenses portion of the policy. So your insurance is automatically going to pay for your additional living expenses. FEMA may assist with whatever the insurance doesn't cover. Okay? So know this, that FEMA is going to consult with your homeowner's adjuster, whoever it may be, your insurance agent. They are going to be in contact with those different entities, okay? They're going to find out what your homeowners will pay, will not pay, and they will assist, okay? So, as every survivor situation is different, FEMA calculations on what it may cover varies, okay? As every survivor situation is different, FEMA and what they will cover, will not cover, may vary depending on the survivor's needs. Okay, that's as simple as I can put it. Expenses for repairs that exceed the conditions to make a home safe, sanitary, and functional are ineligible. Let me say that again. Conditions to make a home safe, sanitary and functional are ineligible for any type of assistance. If your home is a total loss, you can fill out the FEMA application. If you don't have homeowners insurance, they're not going to compensate you for that. Okay? You are actually ineligible. If the home conditions cannot be made safe, sanitary, and functional, then you are not eligible for FEMA assistance. Okay? So I don't want any of my people to be disappointed. If your home is uninhabitable and it is a total loss and you did not have insurance, FEMA is not going to cover the cost of your home being rebuilt. Okay? So you can fill the application out. I encourage everybody to fill out the FEMA application. I'm going to give you the website where you can go to do that. But if there's no assistance in that arena, then I don't want you to be disappointed. That's where the community have to pull together and we have to assist each other. Okay? Black people, we've got to get back to trusting one another, helping one another, providing for one another. You know, that is the only way that we're going to survive. Okay? Assistance depends on a host of factors like insurance coverage and in some respects, the ability to pay FEMA back. Let me read that again. Assistance depends on a host of factors. Number one, like insurance coverage, and number two, in some respects, the ability to pay FEMA back. Okay? What's available to you? Okay, FEMA gives out what they call disaster grants to those victims that qualify for disaster grants. Okay, so let me explain that. Disaster grants can only be used, they are discretionary funds that FEMA set aside that can only be used for the disaster. Okay? For damage that incurred as it relates to the disaster. What does that mean, Brian? If you are a residence where your property was damaged, they will help with regular expenses. They'll help with things like living expenses, those type of things, okay? But they will not cover anything that's not related to the actual disaster. If it's not related to the disaster, they will not cover it, okay? So, survivors should keep receipts. If you have anything that you are paying for that is related to the disaster as it relates to FEMA, keep your receipts for at least 3 years concerning how, if you get a grant from FEMA, if you get a disaster grant, you need to keep your receipt for at least 3 years to show FEMA how the money was spent as it relates to the disaster grant. Okay? If grant money is not used as outlined in the letter, you may have to repay FEMA and you could lose eligibility for any federal assistance that could become available to you later as it relates to a disaster. Okay? So let me say that again to you. If you get a disaster grant and you use that grant money and it's not related to the disaster, then you could actually lose eligibility to receive another disaster grant if, for instance, a tornado hits that area again. So please be mindful of that, okay? After you apply for disaster assistance, you may be referred to the U.S. Small Business Administration, or what we call the SBA. The SBA will normally contact survivors to offer them a low-interest disaster loan. Let me say that again. That the SBA may contact survivors to offer them a low-interest rate disaster loan. Homeowners and renters who receive an application for an SBA loan should complete the application even if they decide not to take it. So, if FEMA refers your application to the SBA and the SBA contacts you and offer you a loan, go ahead and fill out the application whether you take it or not, okay? So what are the sizes of the loans that are offered by the SBA as it relates to a disaster loan? For businesses, and this is of any size, and specific nonprofits, it relates, as it relates to nonprofits, it has to be a certain nonprofit, okay? There are loans that are pretty much guaranteed up to $2 million by the SBA, okay? And that's for small businesses, that's for aquaculture, that's for most nonprofits, up to $2 million for working capital needs, and up to $2 million maximum loan for any combination of property damage and working capital needs. For homeowners, there are loans available up to $200,000 to repair or replace the primary residence. And for homeowners and renters, there's loans up to $40,000 to replace personal property inside, the content inside, including vehicles that were on the property. Okay? So, I encourage you all to, if you need FEMA assistance, please keep everything that I've shared with you in mind, but you can go to www.sba.gov/funding-program-/disaster for assistance. If you have any problem as it relates to filling out the application, you can call 1-800-659-2955. 1-800-659-2955. Okay? And brothers and sisters, that's going to pretty much conclude the information that I wanted to share with you all tonight. Hopefully that has helped you all to understand exactly how the insurance process works, as well as what FEMA will cover, what they will not cover, what they will do as it relates to assisting those storm victims. So from this point forward, I want to encourage you to be diligent, work with your city officials, work with the nonprofits that are there for the time frame that they are going to be with, in the city. And then if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask someone. There's no such thing as a dumb question. So make sure you're asking questions. Again, call FEMA if you need assistance with filling out any applications, things of that nature. So again, thank you. Just wanted to let you know those things. Please share this information with all of those storm victims that need to know what's going on and how to conduct themselves as it relates to their business. So share. I will be uploading this to the YouTube site. Please go to our website. Our nonprofit is bdwenterprisesllc.com. bdwenterprisesllc.com. Thank you. God bless. And we will see you all Sunday. Bye-bye.